Hi everyone, my name's Mia Jeffries. As you might know, I and a group of other Year 2 students recently went to White Island Marine Reserve, and so I'm here to tell you all about it. As you can imagine, we were pretty excited about going. We sailed over on a big steel catamaran, and we were checking the weather reports on the way. According to the radio forecasts, things were supposed to be getting calmer, which was obviously the best thing for our trip. But as we got closer to the reserve, it got really windy, which was not so good. Anyway, at least it didn't turn into a storm, which is what happened on my previous trip. So, the area around White Island has officially been a marine reserve for the last 5 years, meaning that no form of life can be hunted or removed from the area. The fact that there's been an increase in the number of fish and a range of other species is obviously something that highlights the success of the reserve. But actually, the reason we went this time was to measure the size of the fish. That obviously tells you whether the older ones are remaining within the reserve. If you can find big ones, it means they've spent longer in protected waters. So that was the aim for the group. But I also had my own personal goal. I think that over the last few months, I've become a lot more proficient in operating small boats, so I wasn't worried about being left in charge of the dinghies, and we had an intensive course in using the dive equipment a week before we went. That was brilliant. Awesome tutors. For me, though, it was more about honing my identification skills. That was something I knew I needed practice in, and going on a dive really gives you the experience and the opportunity to do this. On average, we went on 4 dives a day, so it was really full on. I have to say that before I went on the trip, I thought the diving itself would be pretty easy. For those of you who know me, you'll know that I'm pretty confident in the water. But 4 dives in one day is actually quite demanding, quite strenuous. So for anyone who's scheduled for the next visit to the reserve, I reckon that a bit of fitness training is a good idea. Then you can just concentrate on dealing with the tanks and managing the recording equipment while you're down there. Like I said before, we were really there to look at the fish, but we were extremely fortunate to see some other larger species too. As you might expect, we sighted a couple of sharks. They were there on each of the 4 days we were in the water, but they pretty much left us alone and we just got on with things. On the second day, though, a small pod of dolphins came by, and the juveniles in the pod wanted to play, and I'm afraid we couldn't help but oblige. They probably messed around with us for a good half hour, so yeah, we were really lucky. And on White Island itself, there was quite a large colony of fur seals, but we kept well away from those. And it wasn't like they prevented us from doing the surveying work. On the last day, we begged our tutors to let us do a pre-dawn dive. It wasn't scheduled, and I think they were surprised we wanted to get up that early, but they agreed to it, and we were in the water by 4 a.m. We'd seen a lot of fish reacting to the predators and to tidal patterns, that kind of thing, but we were also wondering about light, how that might impact on their behaviour. So whether their habits were different in total darkness, semi-darkness once the sun was up, and so on. In fact, we were really blown away by how much activity was going on down there. All you had to do was shine a torch and immediately it'd be surrounded by a school of fish, and they were feeding just like at any other time. The other thing we saw attached to the rocks around us were thousands of ascidians. If you're not sure what these are, some people know them better as sea squirts. Anyway, the ones we observed they each looked like a massive blue bell. They were absolutely everywhere. Incredible. By the end of the trip to White Island, we were all totally elated, but also exhausted. In your first year, when you go on a field trip, all you have to do is make a workbook entry every day. Wait till you do a Year 2 trip. Then you have to get your report done after dinner, and it often took me till midnight, but it's a course requirement. That was tough, and it didn't leave me much time for my blog and the photos I wanted to upload. But I guess it gives you a realistic idea of what life is going to be like once the course is over and you're in a full-time position. Well, I just wanted to thank the tutors for...